Over 27,000 fans pour into Griffith Stadium for what seems to be a typical football Sunday in Washington, D.C. But as the game between Philadelphia and Washington kicks off, one of the most significant events in American history is unfolding 5,000 miles away.
We have witnessed this morning the distance.
It's December 7th, 1941. The nation's capital is thrust into the limelight. The country is in a state of emergency. What happens and what doesn't happen at the Burgundy Gold's game that day goes on to become an infamous part of Washington, D.C. lore. This is Hail Tales, stories from Washington football history. The most forgotten win. The fans who head to Griffith Stadium on Sunday, December 7th, 1941, are expecting a win. This is a golden era for the franchise. Washington football historian Mike Richmond explains.
The Redskins were a juggernaut at that point, that whole era. From their last season in Boston, 1936, through the end of World War II, 1945, they were one of the NFL's top teams. They lost to the Packers in the 1936 NFL Championship, then beat the Bears in 1937 Championship, and then faced the Bears again in 1940. The actual 73-0 loss to the Bears in 1940. So that's what the 1941 season came after, that 1940 loss. But they went back to the championship game the very following year, 1942, and they beat the Bears again, 14-6. Then they went back to the championship game again in 43 and 45, lost both years. So between 1937, the first season of Washington, 45, they won 70% of their games throughout that era.
A future Hall of Famer and several stars propel the team during this period.
Slinging Sammy Baugh.
Redskins moving now, and here's Baugh in action, drifting to his right, going to pass. It's complete. 35, that's Riley Smith, and he's bumped out of bounds after a 6-yard gain. Baugh again in action, handing off to Cliff Battles, head down, fighting for the end zone, and he's in. And Washington has scored. They've taken early lead, 7-0.
Really good player on the team, Frankie Filchok, who was another tailback. Andy Farkas.
Andy Farkas, first into the end zone for a TD.
They had some really good players on that team.
Meanwhile, Washington's opponent on December 7th, 1941, is still finding its footing.
The Eagles finished the season 2-8-1, and it was a really horrible Eagles team. They just were not good from the time they came into the league in 1933 through, I believe, 1945. They didn't have any winning records. Just really bad.
Though the NFL is growing in popularity, at this time, in the late 30s, early 40s, professional sports are dwarfed by the increasingly hostile state of global affairs.
Hi, I'm Ann Doverty. I'm a historian of a few different things, local Washington, D.C. history, and also U.S. World War II home front culture and early air defense.
Anxieties on the home front are bubbling, Dr. Daubertine explains, even more so as the season turns to winter. But direct involvement in the war still feels at this distance.
I found a quote from Constance McLaughlin Green, who is a historian of Washington, D.C., and she wrote, by mid-November of 1941, quote, Washington had settled into a state of half readiness for war without really expecting it to come in the immediate future. So, in other words, I think a lot of folks are thinking, maybe this will happen, but let's prepare for the Christmas and winter holidays, especially those who have a little bit of extra money in their pocket if they live in an industrial center and they've been working one of the newer jobs. Now, something about DC that I don't think a lot of people know at this moment is that it's already starting to see a big population influx. The city's growing. It's starting to feel crowded. And this started in the Great Depression as different agencies are kind of building up to try to combat the Depression. These New Deal federal agencies require staff. And so people have been coming to this city But with this kind of pre-war mobilization and buildup, even more people are coming in. So it's starting to feel even busier and more crowded.
So, on a Sunday in this bustling industrial city, still relatively unperturbed Washingtonians flock to the stadium to watch their beloved winning football team play. Among those fans are high-ranking military officials and members of President Franklin D. Roosevelt's cabinet. On a Washington game day, Griffith Stadium was really the place to be. And so it's minutes before kickoff. The last pregame words are being relayed. Fans are settling into their seats, ready to watch. Nearly 2 p.m. Eastern Time. At that very moment, nearly 8 a.m. Hawaiian time, on the island of Oahu, an attack that would change the world begins.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special news bulletin. The Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii by air. President Roosevelt has just announced.
Japan has attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, and Manila, the Philippine Islands, from the air. The attack is developing.
The battle of Pearl Harbor and the severe bombing of Pearl Harbor by enemy planes, undoubtedly Japanese.
Here is a flash just received in our newsroom. Dateline, Washington. United States Army transport carrying lumber was torpedoed 1,300 miles west of San Francisco. A naval engagement is in progress off Honolulu with at least one black enemy aircraft carrier in action against the Pearl Harbor defenses.
Word travels fast.
If you were at home kind of chilling out, you probably had the radio on, at least in the background. And what you would have heard would have been an interruption of the normal programming with sort of an emergency news broadcast, a little bulletin update. It's very likely that you would have kind of wanted to huddle around that radio waiting for more updates and more bulletins, sort of like just having the news on TV on today.
The whole world now knows the Congress of the United States, with one single vote in opposition, solemnly accepted war with Japan this afternoon. And more than half the world now fights beside it.
Never in history has an entire people borne so frightful an ordeal so bravely. Yes, England can take it.
8 minutes after kickoff at Griffith Stadium, Pat O'Brien of the Associated Press gets a telegraph from the AP office downtown.
Keep it short.
Shirley Povich of the Washington Post recalled O'Brien turning to him and saying,
"For 5 years I've been covering these Redskin games, and now some jerk is telling me how much to write?"
Annoyed, O'Brien wrote to the operator.
"Ask him who's giving me these orders."
The operator replied quickly,
"The Japs have just kicked off. Pearl Harbor is bombed. We're at war now."
Washington's general manager, Jack Espy, later told the Washington Post that team personnel were aware of the Pearl Harbor attack early in the game. In an era before people brought radios to games, it seems news this monumental should be announced to the stadium at large. Washington owner George Preston Marshall, however, wouldn't have it.
It was typical George Preston Marshall. I mean, he was so entertainment conscious. He was a showman. He brought incorporated teepees and at the game and halftime entertainment. And he had the first team marching band, the first NFL fight song, Hail to the Redskins, both of which are recognized by the NFL as the first of their kind. So he was so entertainment conscious and so focused on that he wanted the fans to be focused on the game. You know, he wanted them to be captivated by what was taking place on the field. That's typical George Preston Marshall. He just did not want word getting out.
Francis Stan of the Evening Star wrote,
"For the first time since 1917, the United States was at war. Millions gathered in their homes or at work, heard the dramatically brief news flashes of the Japanese bombings of Pearl Harbor and other American possessions. But at Griffith Stadium, the 20,000-odd spectators weren't told."
Instead of a stadium-wide announcement, calls for certain individuals crackle through the horns.
Admiral W.H.B. Bland is asked to report to his office at once. Commissioner of the Philippines, Mr. Joaquin Alizalde, is urged to report to his office immediately. Mr. J. Edgar Hoover is asked to report to his office.
Harry Hinken, a trombone player in Washington's marching band, later remembered hearing each summons.
They were calling them over the PA system.
As for the cause of the emergency, he said,
They never did tell anybody.
Some fans hear what's transpired in bits and pieces from the open-air press box. One housewife even radio telegraphs Griffith Stadium and requests that a message be delivered to her husband in the stands.
Delivered to Section P, top row, seat 27, opposite 25-yard line. East side, Griffith Stadium, war with Japan, get to office.
The usually active press box grinds to a halt. Shirley Povich wrote,
By the end of the first half, only one of what had been a swarm of photographers was now still working the game. Most others had been summoned to the White House and to the Japanese embassy to record the burning of documents, the smoke scene, and to other points of interest.
More officials summoned.
Joseph Umglump of the Federal Bureau of Investigation is requested to report to the FBI office at once. Captain H.X. Fenn of the United States Army is asked to report to his offices at once.
We sensed that something happened and everybody in the stands realized something was wrong, but we didn't know what. Clyde Shugart, the Redskins two-way lineman, told me that. But by the third period, it became pretty obvious that something was amiss. I mean, something wrong had taken place. And, why would you say for these particular people to report back to their offices during the game? And something had happened.
Something, maybe, but most don't know what. So, fans stay and do what Marshall would want. Watch the game. The contest provides yet another thrilling Slingin' Sammy Baugh performance. He throws for 2 fourth-quarter touchdown passes to give Washington the 20-14 come-from-behind win. Any buzz from that victory, however, is quickly snuffed out at Stadium's exit when, after being deliberately kept in the dark for nearly 3 hours, thousands learn that the U.S. is at war. Povich wrote,
At the game's end, at the stadium's exit, the Redskins crowd that had thrilled to Baugh's 2 fourth-quarter touchdown passes for a 20-14 Redskins victory experienced mass shock.
The city processes the historic event in D.C. specific ways.
Once people found out and they've grown tired of sitting at the radios and want to kind of get out in the city and see what's going on, the logical place for a lot of people on foot or by car was to visit the Japanese embassy on Massachusetts Avenue. And what they found were locked gates, and they could see staff from the embassy taking documents outside to the formal garden area and burning them so that they wouldn't be confiscated, because they knew that that embassy was, soon to be confiscated and taken over. So there was a crowd. People remembered just watching these embassy workers go in and out, and of course booing and jeering and shouting at them as well, which I think is such a DC thing. I mean, if news breaks about something happening in DC, it's like, oh, well, suddenly there's a crowd at the Supreme Court if there's a decision or something. And that's exactly what's happening here.
After getting cleaned up post-game, a few Washington players actually join in on the action at the Japanese embassy.
I think kind of the immediate next few days, it's a combination of people sort of just putting on a brave face and maybe acting a little bit more casual than they felt about it. A range of things are reported by people who lived through it. One woman recalled everyone was talking about whether or not the Nazis would risk suicide air raids on the city for propaganda purposes. Other people are probably coming to grips with the fact that their loved one is going to have to go out to war, and this might be their last holiday season home with them. People also would kind of hoard supplies, things that they thought were going to be rationed soon, especially consumable items. And the lights that illuminate still today the monuments, the White House, the Capitol Dome, those were switched off for the duration of the war, the European front, I should say. And especially the Capitol Dome being dark was something that deeply impacted residents. They remembered that it totally changed how they navigated the city at night. That had been their landmark, and now it was just out, and people really missed it. From this period is a change in the landscape. We get the Pentagon building. We get National Airport, which was then a modern transportation hub. And we get what were called tempos, which were these kind of ugly flat cement buildings on the National Mall that were for a lot of these bureaucrats and clerks and admin people, particularly for the military, but I think other organizations use them too, to just house all of these people who needed desks to work for the war effort.
Pro football continued. Rosters were depleted. 994 NFL personnel served in the armed forces in World War II, including Washington halfback and future Hall of Famer Cliff Battles.
There were many players called up to serve in the military at that point who played in the NFL. The Redskins were kind of fortunate, at least early on, that they didn't have many players who were drafted, but then around 1943-44 is when their names started to be called more often. Including, Sammy Baugh was one of them too. He didn't serve overseas, but he was given the option of reporting to his cattle ranch in Texas or going into combat. He decided to report to his cattle ranch because there was something about the livestock that played into the war, so they needed his help at the ranch.
Sammy Baugh's ranching operation was work deemed essential for the war effort, so he was exempt from the draft. Harry Hinken, then trombone player for Washington's marching band, was called to action a few months after Pearl Harbor. He joined the Marines, fought at Guadalcanal, was seriously wounded at Bougainville, and came back to the band when the war ended. As for December 7th, 1941, at Griffith Stadium, George Preston Marshall's decision was heavily scrutinized. He was asked why he didn't have a Pearl Harbor announcement go out to the crowd. He confirmed what many suspected, saying,
"I didn't want to divert the fans' attention away from the game."
It was arguably Washington's most forgotten win on a date that lives in infamy.
It tells us that real life can overshadow the importance of an NFL game. I mean, NFL is entertainment. It's like a getaway for people on the weekends. A real life event and a tragic event such as this one can overshadow the importance of an NFL game.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. With the unbounding determination of our people, we will gain the inevitable triumph, so help us God.
Tale Tales was created by me, Hannah Lichtenstein, senior brand and content writer for the Washington Commanders. It is produced and edited by Jason Johnson. Additional editing by Nick Lianos. Executive producers are Ryan Yoakum and Kevin Klein. Graphics designed by Zach Osborne. To learn more about Griffith Stadium during World War II, check out Dr. Ann Daubertine's article, Flash Flash, The Hidden Figures of DC's World War II Anti-Aircraft Artillery Command. It can be found on JSTOR. Thank you to our guests for their contributions, and thank you for listening.